Okay, welcome everyone. This is Dr. Edward Condrat, and my goal is to help you have practice freedom. And one way is to learn how to use the Inspirstar microcurrent machine. And this is a review. So if you're online and you haven't attended the 2 or 1 day workshop on the Inspirstar, you better give the office a call and get scheduled for this, or email me. But this is a review, so if you haven't attended the official training, it may seem to be very, very confusing and may not be worth your while. So let's begin. So you received a flash drive with all sorts of information on the flash drive. And I'm going to go over just the setup. You can see right here, ISO2 setup EXE. That's what you need to click and set up on your Windows-based computer. Once again, you need a Windows-based computer. Don't try to do this on a Mac. If you're a Mac lover like I am, you need to get a Windows partition in your Mac. That's what most people do. They just buy an inexpensive Windows computer, and that will take care of it. So, right here, you run the setup EXE, and then Windows is going to ask you, do you want the following program from an unknown publisher to make changes in your computer? And you're going to be hitting yes. And then it will be installed on your computer. And this is what we're going to focus on, the Inspirstar Profile Editor. You may have a real-time up there, or you may have some other applications, but make a note, you want the Inspirstar Profile Editor. You can also open it up right here, Inspirstar Profile Editor on your screen, or you can open it up from your desktop. Now, the first time that you install this on your computer, after you open it up, and you're going to see a screen like this, you're going to hit Tools, Install USB Driver. You need to do this because you need to be able to connect with your Inspirstar machine. If you don't install the USB driver, it's not going to function properly. So I hope this makes sense. So let's go over some basic terminology, and this is essential for you to really understand the whole mechanism and kind of hierarchy. We begin with a frequency pair. Each frequency pair defines a parameter of 2 channels. And as we explained in the class, we have channel A and channel B. Channel A is the pathology, channel B is the tissue. So when you are treating, let's say, inflammation of muscle, you need a frequency for inflammation, which would be channel A, and the frequency for muscle, which would be channel B. If I'm treating inflammation of the macula, I use the frequency for inflammation and then the frequency of the macula. That's a frequency pair. A protocol holds 1 or more frequency pairs, and this is usually set up to treat one particular symptom. So let's say I'm treating, degenerative disease of the knee. I'm going to have various frequency pairs to treat different parts of the knee. I may have inflammation, chronic inflammation, scar tissue, spasm, etc. That's the A, pathology. The B is the tissue. It could be cartilage, it could be ligaments, it could be synovial fluid, etc. So that's a protocol. A profile holds 5 or more therapy protocols. So when a patient buys a microcurrent machine, typically they have 5 protocols. For me, number 1 is for the eye. I put on detox, stress, brain program, and maybe inflammation. So this would be depending on your treatment approach. So I hope this makes sense. Now, very important, if you go into your handout that you received, probably one of the most important files are Channel A new, and Channel B new. These are the list of all the A and B frequencies that you need to use in order to develop a treatment protocol. So, when I evaluate a patient, I take out my legal pad and I sit down with them and I try to find out what is the problem. Then I look through the Channel A list. What are the Channel A frequencies that might be related to this particular patient's problem? And of course, Channel A is the pathology. And of course, we're dealing with energetic motion. So one of the frequency in A is the emotional component. And that's a big one. That's 970. Also 49, restore vitality. Those are two common ones that I like to use. And also 528. 528 is restore joy. So you got to think energetically. Then, of course, Channel B is the pathology. So let's look here. These are some Channel A frequencies, pathology frequencies. 1 is poison ivy, 2 is staphylococcus, 3 is sclerosis, animal blood, iron, 4 is morphine, 5 is acidity, reduce alkalinity, E and B coli, etc. So you can go through the A list. There's probably close to 1,000 different frequencies. Some of them are more commonly used than others, but in order to be successful with microcurrent, you have to kind of think outside the box. And these are some Channel B frequencies. The brain, heart valves, parasympathetic nervous system, oviducts, prostate, etc. You can look through the B frequencies. And once again, they're on your flash drive. And what I recommend is you put this list in a convenient location, because when you're seeing a patient, you need to know how to quickly open this up and how to go through this list. These are some of my favorite A frequencies. I use these just about on every patient that I treat. Not all of them, but a combination. So inflammation is a common one, 30 irritation, 284 chronic inflammation, trauma, reboot. What is reboot? 321 is like rebooting the tissue. So when you have a computer that is not functioning very well, what do? You reboot it. You turn it off and turn it on. That's rebooting, and we can do that with any tissue. Allergic reaction, sclerosis, scar tissue, edema. That's the list. 970, as I mentioned, the emotional component. 81, improve secretions when it's appropriate. So if you're treating a hypothyroid or a pancreas that's deficient, you may want to use 81. And never hurts to throw in 528, which is the frequency for miracles. And this is a solfeggio frequency that also represents the heart chakra. So let me, before we go into the actual machine, let's go into the program. So here we are. This is the Inspirstar. You opened it up. Remember I said tools, install USB driver. Now, what you want to do is we're going to do our first protocol. I double click this, and this is the line that comes up. F1 is the A frequency, F2 is the B, I is the current, T is the time. Forget about the waveform, period, all this, polarity. These are going to be taught in level 2. But let's do something really basic. 40 is inflammation, and it defaults to 100, but let's pick something that we're going to treat, and let's do 95, the retina. Now, a general rule here for current, neurological tissue and the eye, I like to use a low current, around 40. For musculoskeletal problems, you can use a little bit higher, anywhere from 100 to 400. Endocrine, neuroendocrine, you might want to keep it around 100. And so this will depend on the patient. So if you have this big burly truck driver that has a musculoskeletal problem, you probably want to start with 400. But if you have a little old lady that's frail, you might want to go a little bit lower to 100 or 80. So the eye is part of the neurological system. So normally I start with 40. And time, 1 minute. And then we can add some other frequencies. I always like to do 284. And you can see that 95 will default there to make it easier. Then I mentioned 970, which is the emotional component. I have no idea what the emotional component of the retina is, but in classic Chinese medicine, many organs have been identified with their emotional component, such as the liver, anger, frustration, kidney, fear, lungs, grief, etc. So I always like to use that. And then 49 is restore vitality. So there we have our first treatment. And I'm going to put up here a description. This is a retinal protocol. Okay, so we got that. Now what you can do is you can save this. See File, Export Protocol. Because when you're developing and writing your own protocols, you're going to want to save them in a library. And when you hit Export Protocol, it'll go to a default library. And you can write the name right here. I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to save this. Now, here it is right here, 4 minutes. Then I always like to write retinal protocol here. All right, so we have the retinal protocol in both places. Now, we can put another protocol in. And let's say we write this for a detox. Number 3, we can maybe do stress. Now what you can do is you have a list of all of my protocols. So let me go to this list. So to make it easy for you, let's say there's a detox. So this is your arsenic detox. So I'll copy that right here, and boom, it goes in here. So you can go back into this, and maybe you can do a stress program, basic stress, put it in right here. You see how that works? So you want to find the directory, and all of my protocols are on your flash drive. It's called Dr. Kondrat's Protocols. Open it up and simply drag them over here. So you have 2 methods. You can either write your own or drag these onto the machine. So, okay, so right now, how do we put these on the machine? Let's go back to our slideshow. And you need a connector. And this is the cable. The cable goes into the back of the machine, and the other one is a USB that goes into your computer. The unit does need batteries in order for it to work. So if you plug it in, it's not working, double check the batteries, all right? Then it's very simple. You hit write, right here, write. And then you can put a password in if you so desire, or you can leave it blank. Sometimes if you have someone else's machine or an old machine, it's going to tell you can't write it because you don't have the right password. But just click this box here, and you can, if you forget the password, then you hit write. There'll be a progress recording here, and it'll tell you that it's been successfully written. Now, what I like to do is always read And I emphasize this in my office that when the staff is writing on the Inspirstar machine, they also read it. So when you hit the read, you want to make sure that you actually wrote those programs on the machine. Put the password in, hit read, and it's done. Now, you can see here, this is the face of the machine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 protocols. These protocols run separately, independently. They don't run one after another. So if you're turning on one, it's not going to then jump to 2, 3, 4, 5. It runs one and it's over. So when you select the program, it'll be flashing. You hit start, and immediately it'll begin to run. You can tell because these lights come on and the channel indicator lights come on. And here's a site where you can get the latest upgrade for the Inspirstar software. And this is also in the handout that I gave you. So this is a quick overview, and I would encourage you to open up your flash drive. The entire presentation is available there on the Windows PowerPoint. I think it's a PDF, so you can review the slides. So I know that I quickly went over this material, but remember, this is just an overview of the machine. If you do have any questions, give the office a call or email me. But right now, if anybody has any questions, there's 2 ways of doing it. You can raise your hand, and I'll see your hand and we can talk, or you can just type your question in the question box. So those of you that are there, if you do have any questions, either raise your hand, but I think that some of you are on the phone. If you're on the phone, you really can't raise your hand. So you may have to email the office later. But once again, this is a review. This is being recorded, so those of you who are on the phone, I'll be sending you a YouTube webinar for this review. Okay, it looks like there's no questions. Those of you that are attending and haven't taken the 1 or 2 day training, you need to take the training. Those of you that have taken the training and are still confused, you can retake the training. Be my guest. So anyway, thanks all of you for joining me on this webinar. Take your time. Try out all these steps that I told you. You run into trouble, get in touch with the office. And I'm really hoping that all of you have great success with the microcurrent. It's been part of my practice for 10 years. It's a wonderful, wonderful device. If you missed the introductory microcurrent lecture, go to healingbi.com, my website, and you can re-listen to the introductory webinar. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And to practice freedom and practice success to everyone. Thank you.